What is up, everyone? This is RantsHS4 or Branso for short, and welcome to another review for October the 26th, 2013. Now just before I mention the review of this, in case you don't know why hasn't there been a playthrough of this new game that came out yesterday, I'll explain it to you again. My laptop actually has been having fan problems, where basically is that if it overheats in that too much, or because it doesn't work properly, it pretty much shuts off the computer by itself. So when it shuts off by itself, if you turn it back on, well, actually, if I turn it back on, it takes me back to where I left off. But the majority of the time, it cancels the saving time it takes to save a video. Like, for example, I use Windows Movie Maker to save my videos. I pretty much put it onto Windows Movie Maker. I save it as a Windows Movie Maker file onto my laptop, which usually it's mostly up to 8ish minutes, if not up to 20 minutes, depending on the length of the video, actually. And so it would take that save, and then I upload to YouTube, which if the video was 20ish or so minutes long, it would take more than 30, up to 30, if not more than 40 minutes of to upload the video. The problem is this: because that uploading videos and trying to edit them and save them on Windows Movie Maker overheats my computer a lot. If I did both at the same time, I wouldn't be able to upload either the first part or one part, or even edit and save part of my Windows Movie Maker. So I made two update videos. One reminder update video that I uploaded yesterday, and I uploaded the unboxing video to remind people about that. And I also uploaded another update video from a few days ago to remind people about it, that there wasn't going to be any playthrough game, and I would just play the game in that. Yeah, so that's just to remind people, though, that there wasn't a playthrough of this game, so I'm sorry if you guys wanted to see it. But the game we're going to be reviewing is a game that's not really made by Rocksteady, actually. It's made by WB Montreal, who made a prequel to the Batman Arkham games. The game is Batman Arkham Origins for the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Wii U, PS3, and, no, not PS3, sorry, PlayStation Vita and 3DS. Now, the PlayStation Vita and the 3DS version is just Arkham Origins Blackgate in that. Yeah, which is pretty much a different version of the game, actually, completely different, but I mostly buy home console games. I don't buy handheld games unless it's just an exclusive and handheld system. Yeah, but anyway, so what is Arkham's Origins about? As you probably tell, like I said, it's actually a prequel to the first two Batman Arkham games that were made by Rocksteady. Like I said, Arkham Origins is not made by Rocksteady, it's made by WB Montreal. Now, when this game was first announced, a lot of people were speculating that maybe this game might not turn out to be because it's a prequel. But as more trailers for the game started to show up, a lot of people now started to get excited for this game now. And it's now considered one of the most hyped games of the year, actually. Yeah, and I have a feeling the same thing could be said for Super Mario 3D World. The same thing happened to that game. But the game's not out yet until November 22nd. But enough about Super Mario 3D World anyway. So, what is the story of Arkham Origins about? Like I said before, it's a prequel. It pretty much explains about a bit of Batman himself. Back then he used to be a very brutal, very angry hero back then, where the PD does not trust him at all, especially Gordon, the police cop of the game, does not trust him at all and wants him to be arrested. And pretty much what happens in the story is that Batman has to find Black Mask inside the Blackgate prison because he's taken over the prison. However, he finds out later on, actually, that he has hired 8 assassins, actually 8 assassins for Batman's head, and the award prize money is over $50 million for Batman's head for anybody who sets him up. Yeah, so now Batman has to find Black Mask, put an end to the assassins, and pretty much forth that. There are some neat twists in the game, I will mention. There are some pretty neat twists in the story thing, but I'm not really going to spoil it because that will spoil the end. But you pretty much get the beginning part of the game by now, actually. So, well, that's pretty much like the story of Batman Arkham Origins, to be honest, though. So, what are my likes for the game? I will say this, though, like, even though the story I don't think is not really as good as like Arkham City's story, it's actually surprisingly pretty good actually for a prequel story. Actually, it's surprisingly good. But like I said before, there's actually lots of twists actually near the end of the game, or pretty much I'd say maybe mostly third quarter of the story till near the end. That's when a lot of the twists happen. Actually, it's actually pretty neat, the story and that stuff, and it also explains it also has some it does sort of create a character development for some characters like Batman and stuff. But it's like I said, if you know the story of if you already know the story of Batman, especially the comics of how he was and how he became to be, you would already know that. But for those who never played a Batman game, this creates character development for some characters like Batman in either flashbacks or maybe speeches and those stuff. Nah. And especially the 8 assassins actually. Like, even though they don't have much story to them, like, just the simple information about them is good enough to see them. Like, especially some of the bosses are pretty cool and stuff, but we'll get to them later. Honestly though, Arkham Origins story is surprisingly pretty good for a prequel story, but as a story by itself, I definitely think as a story by itself it's okay though, but as a prequel story it's actually pretty good, and it does get you addicted to the plot does get you addicted to the plots a lot of the times. Actually, I'd say mostly the first half of the game is decent, and that's when the story's okay. But when you get to the second half of the story, that's when it gets a lot more interesting and better. Alright, and that's where the story picks up. So I actually like the story of the game. My second like I have with the game is the gameplay of the game. I actually think the gameplay sticks very true to Arkham City, actually. It sticks very true to that game. Actually, and what do I mean by that? Well, pretty much the gameplay is pretty much the same exact thing as Arkham City. Batman can punch, kick, do combos to punch and kick people. He can counter back opponents by pressing the X button, which on my Wii U it's the X button, but I believe maybe on the Xbox 360 controller it's the Y button, and on a PS3 controller it's the triangle button. Actually, it depends though. And you also got the same regular abilities that Batman had in the first two games, like the grappling hook. He can use to fly from one place to another. He has the gliding kick. He has the batarangs. He also has that spray stuff where he can blow up things as he sprays it against the wall. Which in most cases it's good to have the old abilities in that. It's pretty good. Yeah. And you also have some new abilities in the game though, however. Batman actually gets new abilities throughout the game actually that wasn't in the previous game. So like for example, he actually has the special combo actually where basically he can shoot his grappling hook at one opponent, pulls them toward him. If you press the attack button at the right moment, he can just punch him right toward the ground, who knocks him down, and you can hit an opponent after for another critical strike. And that's one of the new ones actually. The other new one is pretty much the glue grenade. The glue grenade actually can be used to stick opponents to the ground and also freeze it, and also like cabinet them so they can't move. There's only one problem though about the glue grenade. It's the same as the ice grenade from Batman Arkham City. The only difference is just that it's made out of glue material or materials to make the glue bomb or whatever. Yeah, but some of the new attacks and abilities he got are pretty neat and interesting, but my problem with them is that they're still very similar to the other abilities that Batman already got from the other two games. But it is nice to do that. There is, however, one new thing though about the gameplay that they changed in that. They completely changed the scene where pretty much like in the first two Batman games, Batman can actually use this thing that's an investigation mode thing. And I don't really mean the one where basically he used the environment to see the X-ray, to use like an X-ray thing to see the opponents behind walls. I mean the other one, where basically he investigates a crime scene, where he press the left button, or L button, or L1, or whatever, which button controller you're using it for. And you can pretty much investigate a dead body, some spots like gunshots that hit against the ground, and that sort of stuff. It's definitely some of those things. However, they actually changed it by doing a CSI sort of reference. Actually, it makes actually, and I'm not kidding you. They turn it into an CSI reference. If you remember in CSI, they like if you see the TV show CSI, pretty much a couple of detectives actually he scans somebody's fingerprints, gunshot bullets that hit the ground and that stuff, and then they try to imagine it in their head in flashbacks in order to guess how did it happen, who was the killer for it. In Batman Arkham Origins, they pretty much made that as a reference, and that's what Batman uses actually. Even though a lot of people might think that's just a huge ripoff, actually, I personally actually like the way they changed it in that, and I think it makes the detective mode a lot more fun or whatever to investigate and that stuff. It makes it pretty cool, actually, in my opinion. It makes it pretty cool. And the new thing they added to the gameplay that I really liked, and I personally think this is a really good feature, and I think should have maybe been in Arkham City, Arkham Asylum, is the fast travel feature. The fast travel feature is pretty much you get the Batwing, which pretty much is your transport. Though, now don't get me wrong though, you could still glide in that throughout the city of Gotham. Now, so just like you have before in the first two games. However, in Batman Arkham Origins though, if you actually destroy some towers which pretty much prevent your Batman from going to those areas, by simply going to the fast travel icon on your map screen, pressing the fast icon button, which pretty much on here it's either A button or B button 360, or circle button on the, a circle button on the PS3 game version, you can actually fast travel there, and it only takes a few seconds to take you there. Let's say that maybe, for example, that you're on one side of the city where you're basically doing a crime, and then your next objective is way on the other side of the city, actually. By simply using the fast travel technique, you can get there a lot faster than you can. Like let's say that one objective, to get to your next objective, which is way on the other side of the city, could take you let's say maybe up to 5 minutes to do, or if not, maybe 3 to 4 minutes. But if you use the fast travel feature, it can take you less than a minute to get there. So I think that's a really good addition to the game, actually, and I think it's really good that the game series now has this feature. And the other part of the gameplay, and my last thing that I actually like about the gameplay so far, is the amount of replay value and content in this game. That there's like Arkham City, there's a ton of content and replay value in this game to do. You got lots of side missions, some criminals to arrest, isn't that, some suspects to apprehend. You also got some and just like in Arkham City and Arkham Asylum, you got the Riddler trophies where the Riddler makes an appearance. However, not the Riddler that looks like that we know, but what he used to look like before he became the Riddler. Now, which is actually pretty neat. Which I think that's good, and that this game has a lot of replay value, just like the game. The story mode of the game is pretty much the same length as the story in Arkham City. It's pretty much at least 10 hours or so long in that, if you decide to go through the story and that stuff. But if you decide to go for the game 100%, the game can take you pretty much a really long time to beat though. Like possibly, in my opinion, actually, it could maybe take you up to 20-ish hours or so, just like Arkham City did for me. Or maybe to make so many other people. And that's actually good in this day and age where most games have to be super long to keep you occupied through the game, and maybe good enough to convince you to actually redo it again, to replay the game again, so you can experience this great gameplay moments, if you know what I mean. That's the gameplay. Now, my other I actually like in this game, even though there are some negative things toward it that I did have though, and I was pissed off toward it, I actually like the boss battles of the game. Now, I wouldn't say the boss battles is as good as Arkham City or nor as creative though. But a lot of the bosses are pretty interesting. That you get to fight some of the 8 assassins. Now, keep in mind, I did find out though that unfortunately you don't fight all 8 assassins though. You only fight a few of them, a couple of them in the story, a couple of them in side missions. But other than that though, I did not fight any of the other assassins anywhere though, unless maybe I did defeat them all, maybe I just wasn't paying attention, or maybe I forgot a couple. But that's just my opinion. But as for the bosses, some of them are pretty interesting though. Some of them are. Like the Firefly's boss fight was really cool. Bane's fight was actually interesting that you get to use the Electrocutioner's lightning shocking gloves to beat Bane. And you also got the character Deathstroke. That's right, Deathstroke's actually in the game as one of the villains and bosses. So, and I thought that was really good, really neat. The Deathstroke. Possibly out of all the boss fights, my personal favorite, even though I did get pissed off during the game, my personal favorite boss fight has to be the Deathstroke fight. It definitely really is, it definitely represents the character of Deathstroke pretty good, as Deathstroke pretty much counters back on everything you do, and you have to precisely counter back everything he does. It uses a lot of techniques to stop. But I definitely think Deathstroke is one of my favorite bosses of the game by far. And Deathstroke's pretty much only like the second-ish or so boss, by the way. It can be a bit hard, though. Now, keep in mind, though, true, I may like a lot of the bosses. They can be so hard for mostly the wrong reasons. Though, for instance, when you're beating up, trying to beat one of the bosses, there are some bosses that send out way too many enemies at once. And because that a lot of times the camera keeps moving around, and also because there's so many coming, you can't focus on the boss because you're focusing on the end. Because the enemies are coming at you and you're focusing on them. But you can't focus on the enemies because the camera keeps screwing up. But you can't control the camera because the boss is coming at you and it's driving you insane. I mean, I'm not kidding you. During the third part of the game, some bosses were... Those negatives combined in one boss fight pissed me off so much. But a couple of them took me at least 3 freaking tries to beat them because of these stupid issues of the game's camera. And stuff. Now, don't get me wrong though, I'm not saying that the camera angle is bad though. It's just that during a boss fight, if there's way too many enemies come too close, and because it also changes whenever you tap from one enemy to another, you can't see what the boss is doing at all though. And personally, and you can't even zoom out, or you can't even zoom the camera out at all in this game. They completely don't let you do that at all or anything like that, and it makes it really hard to actually fight bosses. No, it's just only the boss by itself, and outside of that, it works completely good. It's just that in bosses where there's way too many enemies hitting you at the same time, that's when the camera gets screwy in that. Yeah. So, pretty much, I definitely liked a lot of the bosses. A couple of them, it's just that a couple of them, I think, were a bit too annoying and too hard. And really frustrating. But that's just my opinion. And my other like, which pretty much might be my last like, is actually the graphics of the game. Now, if you have played Arkham City, though, you know on one side of the city, it's pretty much the original part of Gotham City, but that was before it became the Arkham City that we knew in Arkham City. However, in Arkham City, though, part of the city was flooded by water, but in Arkham Origins, it's not flooded by water. It's still part of Main City. Actually, and there's a lot of pins that were in the original Arkham City game that actually make an appearance, like the giant tower that the Doctor was in from Arkham City. There's also the East Chemical Building, the steel mill, which was where the Joker was in the Arkham City game. Okay. The church, the courthouse, and many other ones. And even the museum actually makes an appearance too, though. The graphics, I will say they're good. However, I actually personally honestly feel that in terms of WB Montreal, they definitely did try to make it as good as Arkham City. I admit it's almost as good, but not really close though, and there's a few reasons. Number one, texture pop-ins and pop-outs. Now, if you don't know what that actually means, pop-in and pop-out graphics are pretty much like a graphics from far away can look super blurry, then there's almost little to no texture about it. It's almost like as if you've seen a PS1 or a PS2 game, or a GameCube game, or which one you prefer to call. Yeah. But when you get closer though, however, as the game tries to load up more of the textures, then it starts to pop in more. Then the texture will start to pop out more, and now you'll be able to see the textures better. Or maybe I got the pop in and pop out thing wrong, but I might have maybe gotten it wrong though, but you pretty much get the idea. Yeah, though. This happened a couple times throughout the game, though, that there's this, like, the museum building could not show its textures because I was still too far away. The game hasn't loaded the textures yet. But as I got close and the game started to load the textures in more, that's when the textures now started to appear in the game a lot more better. The second problem I have with the graphics is a bit of the frame rate in this game. Now, there's not that really many frame rate issues. There's not that many in the game. Some people claim that there's a lot of frame rate issues during the boss fights and stuff, which I don't really see that, to be completely honest, though, because it's just like Arkham City. Arkham City 2 had boss fights that ran pretty much almost at the same frames per second. That at Arkham Origins, I did not really see any change, though. It felt just like Arkham City's frames per second thing that happened before. Also, I didn't that. It's just that the frames per second I'm talking about is when you're gliding and one point the game saves and that stuff. There's a couple times in the game that the loading of the game here, frame rate, and because that a lot of times there's a couple times that happened to me that the frame rate slows down so much that it takes the game here this only happened a couple times, by the way. So this may happen to some people, may not have happened to anyone else. Pretty much what happened was that the frame rate slowed it down so much, that it causes the game to take way too much of a long time to load. And what also happens is that sometimes the frame rate issue, and this only happened to me once, and it might have happened to somebody else, but the frame rate got so bad and so low at one point that the game crashed on my console. Well, I'm not kidding you. The game crashed in that, and so I had to turn off my whole console and restart it again. But luckily, ever since then, that's only happened once. But that's what happens. The frame rate on some parts of the game, when you're mostly gliding from one area to the other, where it saves and then you're doing several stuff at the same time, drops the frame rate so much that some stuff takes a long time to load. But like I said, it only happened a couple times to me. So quite honestly, though, pretty much it for the graphics and that, but the level design is pretty much the same like Arkham City, though, except now you got a new part of the city that pretty much adds in. And the other thing I like one thing I do like about the graphics, however, is that they expanded the simple open world of the Arkham City areas that was in Arkham City into making a bridge into another part of Gotham City. So they pretty much made the open world a lot bigger than before. Yeah, and I personally glad they expanded the open world. I mean, first Rocksteady improved the open world from Arkham Asylum into Arkham City by improving it. Now WB Montreal is trying to make it bigger than Arkham City into Arkham Origins. So, in my opinion, that's actually pretty good. Yeah. Now, what about the controls of the game? Do I like it or do I hate it? I personally like the controls of the game. I definitely think the controls are actually good, just like Arkham City was. But then there's a lot of times that sometimes the controls just fuck up so much. And this is due to one of my negatives of the game. And one of my negatives of the game is glitches. I mean, my god, like, I did not encounter these glitches until when I was doing lots of the side content in the game. Hey, there's a lot of glitches in the game that pretty much just screw you over and over again. A lot. Well, this only happened to me a couple times, but a lot of the side missions I've done, actually, the glitches, sometimes there's an odd glitch where a dead body, where pretty much you have to investigate the dead body, it never appeared in this one spot I was in. Even if I moved extremely far away and came back, it never came back. So the only way I would be able to see it is to restart from the last checkpoint that I saved. Actually, and luckily I have to give it credit. The checkpoint system is actually is definitely much better than Arkham City. I can guarantee you that. And that's not really the only thing that some glitches can also do. Some glitches can actually disable you from using the X button or Y button or triangle button or whatever sometimes the glitch can be so bad that it disables the X button or whatever to interrogate people. There are some side missions where, just like in Arkham City, you have to press the X button to encourage someone that you sort of knock down to the ground up to the point where he gives up. And what actually happens is that you press the X button to actually interrogate them. What happens in Arkham Origins? Well, like I said, there's a really odd random glitch that causes the X button to not work at all. And even if you don't smash it like, even if you don't smash like this, on that, even if you